Hello, number ones, and welcome to Metatron's Academy. Today we have a very interesting question. What is the country with the highest number of languages? So giving you the answer right off the bat, it's Papua New Guinea. And for those who don't know, this is an island country in the Pacific Ocean, which has, to this date, over 800 spoken languages. And this is significant because over 800 languages means that this relatively small island has more than 12% of all spoken languages on the entire planet. Even though the overall population is relatively small, 9 million, it's like 0.1% of the entire world's population. Impressive feature. Now that we have given you this, what about the top 3 then? Okay, this is top 1. What about 2 and 3? Number 2 is going to be Indonesia, with over 700 languages spoken all around the entirety of the country and its numerous islands. 700, goodness gracious. Now, for number 3, we're actually going to Africa, and it's going to be 3, 2, 1. Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, with over 500 different languages spoken all over the country. All right, you know me. Let's turn it into a top 10. What's number 4? Number 4, we've got India coming strong with 400 and plus languages spoken. I think number 5 is going to surprise you. Is it going to surprise you? Let's check it. Number 5 is Mexico. Mexico, ladies and gentlemen. Mexico. Be like, Metatron, what are you talking about? They speak Spanish there. Yeah, and another 300 languages on top of that. 300. For number 6, we're going back to Africa, and this time we are in Cameroon, where up to 290, 280 languages are spoken. Next is another country that might surprise you. At number 7, ladies and gentlemen, we have Australia, where they speak 250 plus languages. Obviously, one of these being English, the most spoken, and we do have to keep in mind, as a little disclaimer, small caveat, that when we give this number, you have to remember that, English is like one of these languages and it has the highest number of speakers, but then you have like languages that are endangered. Many of these are endangered, so the number of speakers are very, very, very small. Sometimes even like almost a family large or a very small tribe. Next on our list, at number 8, we have Brazil. Clearly, Portuguese being the main dominant official language, but Brazil also sports 200 languages spoken in the country. For number 9, we are going all the way back to Asia. Goodness gracious, we're jumping around today. And we have the Philippines, where over 180 languages are spoken. And for number 10, to complete our list, we go back to Africa, and we are this time in Tanzania, where 150 plus languages are currently spoken. All of this was interesting, fun, but why does this happen? Why are there countries where so many languages are spoken, and how is it even possible? How does that occur? There are several key factors that explain why these countries have such extraordinary linguistic variety. Some of these can be geographic barriers. In other words, it's a big factor when you have mountains, dense forests, islands, rivers, which create natural boundaries that historically isolated communities from each other. Hence, a lot of these countries, if you remember, had huge amounts of islands. In other words, when groups can't easily communicate or travel between areas, their languages evolve separately over generations. Also, land masses matter. Countries like Indonesia, for instance, which has 17,000 islands, India, with the Himalayas, deserts and jungles, Brazil, vast Amazon rainforests as geographic features that naturally separate populations. Think of Australia and the kind of languages that developed in such an enormous continent. However, historical factors play a major role too. Many of these countries were never unified under a single political system until relatively recently, where empires and nation-states gradually consolidated languages. Places like Papua New Guinea and parts of Africa remained as collections of small independent communities for thousands of years. Now, there are also other aspects like population density patterns. If you imagine when people live in small scattered groups rather than large cities, there is less pressure for linguistic unity and more opportunities for languages to diverge. And the contrast is striking when you compare this to places like China or much of Europe, where geographic features, political unification and trade networks encouraged linguistic consolidation over time. If you're enjoying this video so far, please take a moment to check out my Patreon page. With as little as a $5 support, you can help us ensure that we can continue to produce high quality and high researched content. And at the same time, you get access to polls, extra videos, unlisted streams, and much more. Thank you so much. However, I do want to focus on this, that we just mentioned, political unity or lack thereof, because it plays a crucial role in linguistic diversity patterns. Political consolidations typically reduces linguistic diversity through several mechanisms. 1. Official language policies. Unified countries usually promote one or a few languages for administration, education and trade, and in order to go up in the social scale, youths and younger generations are encouraged to learn the official language over their regional varieties, or some could say dialects. Infrastructure and development. Roads, schools and markets built by centralized governments increase contact between language groups. Also, we have to consider population movements, because unified political systems encourage migration and resettlement, mixing language communities. And last but not least, economic integration. Shared political systems create incentives to learn dominant languages for economic opportunities, as explained before. An excellent example of that we can see in Europe, for instance, is France. You see, France once had dozens of regional languages, but centuries of centralization gradually marginalized Occitan, Breton, Alsatian, and others in favor of French. Similarly, China's long political unity helped spread Mandarin, even though many regional quote-unquote dialects are actually distinct languages. We could say, therefore, that linguistic heterogeneity is strongly connected to historical factors, geographical aspects of the areas in which population clusters build their permanent settlements, and the degree of political unification of such territories, historically all the way up to the modern period. Now, another thing that we could discuss is how a language goes extinct, but I would like to do that for a dedicated video. If you're interested, do let me know in the comments. As a last aspect that I wanted to cover, I wanted to discuss the number of languages expected to die in the future. And it is a topic of significant concern among linguists. Current projections suggest that roughly half of the world's 6,000 to 7,000 total languages could disappear by the end of this century. And there are several factors that contribute to this prediction. For instance, globalization, economic pressure, educational systems, integrational transmission breaking down as younger speakers adopt majority languages, small speaker populations making languages particularly vulnerable. At the current state, UNESCO classifies about 2,500 languages as endangered. Many languages have already fewer than 1,000 speakers, and some exist only among elderly speakers with no children learning them. However, the future isn't predetermined. Language revitalization efforts are growing worldwide, with communities working to document, teach and preserve their languages, and digital technology is also creating new opportunities for languages to maintain and be learned. And thank you very much for joining Metatron's Academy. Stay curious!